Now, if you're a stand-up fighter and you want to utilize wrestling skills in your fighting, of course, doing that type of thing, you're going to have probably a higher level stance. You're not going to be as low. Your stance is going to be it's going to be significantly higher. The other factor in that type of competition, like mixed martial arts, for example, is that the distances become greater than traditional wrestling or submission grappling. The distances become greater. And so it becomes more important to be able to cut the distance properly so that you cannot be perceived and then defended against as you initiate your attack. Additionally, what is also critical is that you've mastered the notion of being able to lower your level and then come in. And that's a little bit different when you're starting from a higher position up here and having to lower your level than when you're starting from a lower position from the get-go. And that's why I think it's critical to practice this stuff the wrestling way, so to speak, and immerse yourself in this type of tradition so that you'll become comfortable, and then the transition is fairly easy, even if you're fairly upright. The mistake I think a lot of people make that haven't trained wrestling is that when they start up high, there's a terrible tendency for that trajectory when they attack to go down low because they haven't mastered the notion of lowering your level to prepare to attack and then cut the distance. So the notion that you need to drop your level effectively and also deal with greater distances are somewhat different circumstances than you'd find in, for example, traditional wrestling or submission grappling or jiu-jitsu. Now, we're going to do some different type of setups that are basically going to be from hand striking. So, to start out with, just a simple jab to a double. We're both in position here. We might be a little further out. I'm going to come in, jab, and then what I want to do is I want to lower my level and come in. Again, typically now, because we're up higher, I'm going to try to avoid going to my knees. I have the option, of course, to come here and drive through, or to come in on a more traditional double and to cut the corner and get the angle. So we're both facing each other, squaring off. I'm going to step, I'm going to cut the distance. I want to do that by distracting him and also threatening him. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to lower my level and drive. I want to distract him, I want to threaten him for a moment, and while he's defending, I want to drive and attack. So I'm going to come in, we're moving around. You'll notice I'm trying to get Colby to defend. I'm also trying to invade his space, hopefully effectively enough, so that as he's defending, he's also having to retreat. At that point, I'm trying to overtake him. Next is a jab-jab combination. And I think that just like in wrestling, as you get against more experienced opponents, it's important to be able to chain setups together and moves together to be able to effectively get an opening to attack. I think combinations of punches are probably going to result in a higher level of or higher probability of success, being able to cut the distance effectively as opposed to a simple jab. And so one alternative would be a double jab. So I'm going to go jab, jab, and then in. And our experience here, at least, is that having two punches come at you is a lot more distracting and is a lot more threatening than one. And that second punch that's coming in, I'm already beginning my attack. Again, right now I'm not going down with Colby, but ultimately the goal would tend to be for me to go down as we finished before, avoid the guard, get on top from the side. Another alternative is a 1-2. Doing it slow. 1, 2, and then coming in. So 1, 2, in. Again, always trying to get the momentum from my strike so that he's defending and going backwards, and I'm trying to overtake him again. I can run more effectively forward than he can run backward. I'm going to be more effective with my power going forward than he is going to be going backward, so he's not going to likely be able to defend quite as easily. Finally, a 1-2-1 combination. 1, 2, 1. Frankly, I prefer when I'm attacking a double leg, ending on a 1 or a jab, because as I do, I feel like I've just started my attack in. Whereas when I end with a 2, I feel like I've got to rotate my body, and it takes me an extra beat, I think, to be able to initiate my attack. So my preference is to start my attack with the jab, whether it's a jab, 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 or a 1-2-1, as opposed to a 1-2, but I think a 1-2 is effective, but just personally, I feel like it's easier to begin that attack in with my drop step as I'm punching, for me to close the distance a little bit quicker. It seems to me to be a little bit more fluid. So that's something to consider. But I think that ending on a cross, or a 2 rather, that's effective as well. So 1-2-1. You'll notice as I end up on that 1, it's like I'm continuing in on the attack. And again, for me, that seems to be more fluid. You'll notice that time when I came in, I didn't get to the side very good. My head ended up hitting him more towards the chest. And like I had mentioned earlier, a lot of this, it's whoever gets the most is firstest, of course. But as long as you have a basic sense of position, if my head hits here, I'm certainly not going to stop the technique. I'm quite aware that I can continue to drive through. So, in terms of the mixed martial arts or no holds barred game, like wrestling or submission grappling, setups are important. There is some difference in terms of the distances that need to be traversed or cut, as well as the importance of lowering your level, given that in all likelihood your level is going to be somewhat higher in this particular game. I just went over a few potential setups. Stand-up is not my strength, but simply to show you that there are options in terms of transitions, which once you get the basic wrestling principles down, you'll be able to integrate that into your stand-up skills.